Hi guys. Okay, for the Silver Wolves today we're going to set up my full hammock camping set. I brought my barrel out. Now I'm out at the shooting range, so you can expect to hear some shooting fire back over that way on the other side. They're not shooting at me, it's okay. It's just the shooting range goes that way and I'm over this way. But I'm in the primitive camping area of my shooting range club that I'm part of. It's close to the house and it's a lot quieter than what I got going at the house. Everybody, we had rain the last 2 days, and so everybody's out there with leaf blowers around my area. It sounds like a hurricane, all them leaf blowers. So come on out here to try to shoot a video for you guys. Now, as I've said, I use this big barrel, and this is what I mean by the barrel. Okay? This is I believe it's a 30 gallon, or it might be a 25 gallon plastic barrel. It's got a snap type ring on the top of it. Do like that and take off the ring. Pop up handles on the side so you can carry it fairly easily. And usually I can bring that up, take that and put that in that or something and make it stay like that out of the way. Now it's got a good solid top. I can sit on this barrel. So that means it's something I can use around camp more than just a carrying medium. Now let's talk about this for a second. Okay, why a barrel? Well, when we're doing backpacking, you have the hammock itself. Then you have the tarp. Then you have the underquilt. If it's winter, then you got the underquilt liner. Then you've got the top quilt or a sleeping bag. Your backpack's full with just that, you know. And each one of those stuff sacks, you got to take time to stuff it all back in. But we're not backpacking much anymore. We're the old Silver Wolves. And so now what we're doing is we're usually car camping. And so we're going to drive up, get out, and go set up our camp relatively close by to where we can pull up. Now, a good friend of mine who's a disabled veteran, he got something similar to this. And what he's doing is he's parking. He says, I'm walking about a half mile back down a cleared trail to a favorite place. So he took one of these barrels and he made a little cart with a couple of wheels on it like a hand truck. The barrel would sit on it. And so you just walk and tow it behind him like a luggage carrier and roll it down there using lawnmower tires. You can always improvise. But for the vast majority of us Silver Wolves, we're just going to pull up, offload, and it's going to be a short hop from where the vehicle's going to be to where our camp's going to be. Right, so we're car camping. Let's just be straight up. Now the other advantage of this is all of those stuff sacks, I'm not using them. I'm putting it assembled into the barrel. Now what that means is right now inside that barrel, when I lift the lid off, and I'm going to show you this in a minute, when I lift the lid off, there's my tarp on top. I also got room for clothing and stuff like that, and my M65 field jacket's in here because the last time I used it was pretty cool. But let me show you that, how it's layered in the thing so it comes out. Okay, come up here and lift the top off, turn the top upside down, drop it on the ground. I got a dry place. Here I got clothing. There's my M65 field jacket from the last time I was camping. There's one of my field shirts. Now I use a couple of towels in here. What these are for is like we had talked about. I will roll one of these towels up to be like a pillow to put under the nape of my neck. That's all I need. I don't need a big old pillow. Your head doesn't fit right in a hammock that way, but if I put this underneath my neck and just let my head lay back on this, works just as good as a pillow to me. And I carry two. I carry a big bath towel and a small one. If my legs are giving me trouble, this will be up under my neck and I'll roll this up and stuff up under the leg or whatever to keep the leg from aching so much. And I've talked about that. It also serves as a towel at camp for various things where I need to dry off or whatever. Okay, now we get down. First thing coming out is the setup straps. Now this is what's going to hang my hammock. I'm going to show you setting those up in just a minute. Next thing down is my tarp, and this happens to be in, be in this one. This is my hammock. This is the small extra hammock. Here is my underquilt and underquilt liner. This is the second layer. Onewind calls it a blanket, but what it is, it snaps into the underquilt and doubles insulation. So this is my winter setup to have insulation underneath. And we're going to set this up in just a second and show it to you. And then down here is my ridgeline. And my tarp. And my tarp already has the tent stakes hooked to it. And then finally, on the very bottom down here, we have the mosquito net. I didn't need it last time. This could be on the hammock. If not, it's down in here. And in the very, very bottom, I have the underquilt rain cover. So if it's blowing rain or whatever, this is just a waterproof cover that goes over the bottom of the underquilt. So if I've got rain trying to blow in, it'll keep it from getting wet. It also adds an extra layer of warmth if it's kind of cold. And then a few little other bags and stuff, but that's what's in here. That's how I run this. So it's set up for what I'm going to need. Now, let's set everything up. Okay, remember the first thing that came out was the straps, because that's the first thing I'm going to set up. I'm going to take them, selecting my trees. I've talked on this earlier, but let me retouch on it right now. I picked a site to set up my hammock. One, is it fairly flat, or even better, a little crowned up so water runs away? I don't want any kind of depression. The water's going to flow in here, so if it's, you know, it looks great, it's very picturesque, it's very beautiful, but it goes to raining and a mud puddle forms right underneath me. Lessons learned, guys. Always when you want the ground a little crowned up or it's flowing away. You don't want a flat hole. Okay? Next, I have picked a place that has the W's. The 5 W's. 1, is there water available? Well, water's right down there. Okay, so I ain't got far to go. 2, is there wood available? Because I'm going to have a campfire, right? I don't want to have to walk a half mile to get firewood. So set your camp up close to the sources of wood and water. Okay? 3rd, if there's an outhouse involved, that's an addendum. Be close enough to the outhouse for us old wolves. If not, nature, then we understand. But wood, water, widow makers. We're going to look up, make sure we ain't got a tree with a bunch of dead limbs on it or something like it's going to fall on us. That could be bad in a windstorm. So always look up. Widow maker. Look up. Water, wood, widow maker. Next, wind. Especially in the winter, 4th W, wind. Is this a place that the wind's going to blow through a lot? If I got trees or cover to break the wind off of me, am I on the back side of the hill or the front side of the hill? Things like that, because that cold north wind just going to make you feel bad. And hammocks are really useful and comfortable as long as you're stable air around you, out of the wind or whatever. So don't put it up there on that very top edge of that ridge that wind is howling over in the middle of the night. It's going to be cold that way. So wind. And finally the last one. Wildlife. That's the 5 W's. Wildlife. Is this a place close to a gator slide? Is it a place that I got a whole lot of deer tracks right here to the middle of my camp? That means it's a highway, and I'm going to have wildlife walking through camp. Coyotes, stuff like that, pigs, cows, whatever. So just pay attention. Okay, so that's the 5 W's. We're going to set the system up right here. So I'm going to come up to the tree. And I know for me, I like my strap to be about eye level. You'll have to adjust, like we've talked about, to what fits you. Throw it around. Now when you pass through the loop, do not put the loop, notice I went counterclockwise around that tree. If I put the loop on this side, it's just going to slide because it's not cinching up and pulling up. Okay? Don't put it in the middle. It will slide. Put it on this side of the tree, on the far side of the tree. Now whenever I pull it, it cinches down and it grips the tree. Okay? Now I'm going to put up the other one. Again, notice I went to this side of the tree, take it around, pull it so it cinches down. Now I pick up my hammock. Now the Onewinds and a lot of the others have these deployment bags. And what that means is there's an opening on both ends. Okay? So I'm going to take the one end, and I typically mark mine, tell which one's the head and which one's the foot. Now, does it matter? It can on the hammock. Like a Hennessy has a definite way you go in and out. The war bonnets have a definite way you go in and out, so you'll learn to mark them. But I've got mine with that bead all the way down to there. That tells me this is the head, and that's also where my ditty bag is going to be. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And if I want my head to be on this side, come up here. And remember that trick I showed you about making a quick detach? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through the buckle one time. I'm going to pull it up here to point X, where it's fairly loose. I'm going to double the strap in half, and I'm going to go back through that buckle. Pull it down. That makes a quick detach. Now, as I walk, it'll come out of the bag. I'm going to grab the other end. See, it's spilling out of the bag, but on the other end of my other buckle, I've got it cinched up tight. So this bag's going to stay on this hammock. So I'm just going to grab that other buckle and let it spill out in my hand. That way I'm not dragging it through the mud. Now, once I get it all the way out here, make sure it's not twisted. Okay? Look at your cords. Make sure your cords aren't twisted 2 and 3 times like this one is. Roll it so it's not twisted. Make sure this side is the same way so it's not twisted. Take the strap, go through, pull up, double it in half, go through the buckle. Like that. Now I want it kind of centered up. So I'm going to come back to this one. I'm going to grab that loop, like I showed in other videos. I'm going to pull it up here and I'm going to get her good and tight. Now, the Onewin straps are good. They're high tension, so is that strap, that's cord up top. That's 1,800 pounds, 2,500 pounds. So it ain't going to break. But if I haven't used it in a while, the fibers may relax a little bit and you want to pull it tight and stretch it a little bit. So I've set up the body of the hammock. Now's the time before I set everything else up to see if I can sit down in it and get into it without it being, because I thought I did it, I made it too tall. Or this end's too high. Now's the time to test it and to stretch out those straps a little bit. I know this looks way too high. We'll see. I'm going to take it, hook my thumbs like we talked about, tuck it underneath, sit down. And my feet are flat on the ground, aren't they? Okay. Give a little bounce. Stretch it. Alright, I want my feet flat on the ground. Alright, now, since this strap is longer than that strap, if I put my head up here, it's going to be downhill. So I need to adjust that. What that means is, you've got the two straps. If this strap is shorter than that strap, This end's got more give. Now, if I put my head here, my head's going to go down, my feet's going to go up. So I want my head to be closer. So now I'm going to loosen one and tighten the other one up and scoop the whole hammock this way a little bit. Pull that quick strap, quick disconnect, fold in half, go back on the top, do it about like that. Come up here, take up the slack, give her a good yank. Sit down in her again. My feet are flat on the deck, so I can get in and out easy. Now my head, about even with my feet. This cord is relatively level, okay? Now when I get into it, I'm laying relatively level. And I can get out easily, okay? Don't overlook this step. Get it balanced, because everything's going to build upon this. And so if I get it out of whack now, I just put it up and I don't pay attention, and then I get all my tarp up and everything else, and I get it and suddenly my head's in a hole. My feet's up too high. I get a headache. Or the other way, my head's way up, my feet's down, I keep sliding down to the bottom. You need to make sure it's relatively level. It can be off just a little. And to be honest, I like my feet just like an inch or two higher, just because of the way I am. It fits me better. But being able to roll over and put your feet flat on the ground is the key. That way I can get in and out like we've talked about, easy. Okay. Now notice my ditty bag up here. Let's talk about this ditty bag a second. Okay. This comes on the full-size camping hammocks. This is not on the ultralight hammock. But what it is, it's a pocket up here. It's got mesh pockets, and these are big enough for a soda can to fit into. And then on one end it opens up and it's big enough in the middle to put something large in there, okay, like a sidearm for those guys that are in bear country or something. You can put a sidearm in here, slide it in. This slides up and down the ridge. Now what I do is I put any medications or things I may need during the night, and a little soda or can or something in here, so if I need something to drink during the night, I got it. Okay. When I go to sit down, I slide it all the way out of the way. I sit down in the middle, I lay down. When I lay down, I can reach up here and I can move it. I also carry quite often, is my everyday carry, I carry a small flashlight. It's a really bright flashlight. Okay. I can drop it into one of these pouches and use it like a night light in here, where I can reach up and click, turn it on, and be able to light up and see what I'm doing under here, and then go click and turn it off. It will also click to this cord up here, so it's a way of having a light inside the tent, so to speak, inside of the hammock. But like I said, I'll lay down and then I'll either slide it up here above my head, where I'm not going to bump it, or I can slide it down here out of the way where I can still reach it, but it's not in my way. Okay? Now, this cord, once you have adjusted it, and we've talked about that, how to adjust one of these cords, I had an extra hunk. Okay? I made a loop out of it. And this is where I can anchor something else up here, like a small pack or something like that. I can come up and actually hook it to the top and lay it up here in the top of the hammock like that, up here in this pocket. A lot of times my haversack will ride up here, so it's above my head, but if I need it, it's right there. Okay? They make, OneWind makes a bigger version of this that you can attach to yours if yours didn't have one, or you've got another company's hammock but it's got a ridgeline and you don't have one of these. They make a bigger pocket that you hook up to this, that you can buy as an accessory to go on here to have that big accessory. I find this is very handy, like I said, keep medications and stuff like that, where you go to bed and everything's fine, you wake up with that headache, or you need to take some of your medication for your aching joints and stuff like that. It's handy and quick. So it's been invaluable to it, plus to have a light that I can reach up and click on so I can get up when nature calls and etc. This little bag is a big saver, really is. Okay, let me put the camera back and we're going to go to the next level. Okay, this is the underquilt. Okay, now for those of you that are not that versed in hammocks, let me explain. And I've had several people ask me about how do you get in the sleeping bag and get in the hammock. That's just a bad idea, guys. Because that hammock, when you're laying in it, it's compressing. Whatever this is underneath, your weight's smashing it flat. Okay? And you don't get much insulating value. Insulation means lofty, fluffy. It's capturing air. If you mash it flat, it's not doing as good. It needs to be thick and fluffy. So it catches and holds and slows that heat, that body heat, from getting away from you very fast. Okay, so this rides on the outside of the hammock, and it's like a sleeping bag on the outside of the hammock that does the same job as a sleeping bag on the inside. Now the part that goes on top of you is called a top quilt, and we've talked about that in videos. But just a sleeping bag, a regular sleeping bag, put over the top of you like a quilt or a blanket at home when you're laying in bed, does the same job. As long as I got insulation below me and I've got insulation on top of me, I'll be warm. Now I have ran, me personally, this hammock with this underquilt and blanket snapped into it for the maximum warmth, wearing proper clothing, which meant I was wearing long underwear and etc., down to 17 degrees and slept warm in this. I have taken it down to 21 and well below 30 several times, but 17 I think was the lowest. And my friend Dan Lutz, wearing proper clothing, this, and a few other little minor tweaks, he's been down to 10 below. So yes, you can camp in the winter. Technique, a little add-on here there, and we'll deal with that a little later on. We're talking about extreme cold weather camping. But right now we're just talking about summer, fall, etc. Now, the underquilt that they sell has two different colored cabiners. One is silver and one is black. That is because that way when you pull it out, you can tell which way is the head and which way is the foot. Up here on my shoulders, I wanted a little snugger, but I wanted a little looser at my feet, so it's not a tight V down there and you can't move your feet. You want wide down there because your legs are just laying on it. But up here on the top, I want to cup around me. So for me to remember it, silver hair, the silver hook goes at the head, the black hook goes at the black boots. All you got to do is you come up here and you clip it to the line, walk to the other end, make sure your cords ain't twisted up, and come up and clip it to this end, just like that. Now it hangs right here beside of it. Let me get you in a little closer so you can see it. Okay, this is actually, you have the underquilt and the underquilt blanket. I've actually got it backwards. This is the underquilt on the outside. So all I got to do is just push up and flip it like that. Okay, the blanket is on the inside, and there's a series of snaps they allow it to snap in place. There's not one for every snap, but there is enough for it to be proper. And what that makes is a double layer. Okay, along the top there's a series of snaps, and there's a pull strap to pull it up this way, and these to adjust for tension holding it up. Now all you do is you hang it up here, and then you lift the hammock up and sit the hammock down inside of it, just like that. Okay, now right in the middle of it, right here, I hope you can see that, there's a little opening. Okay, and on the actual side of the hammock you have a little sewed in tab right there. What I've done is taken a little piece of cord and I will run it through that little opening like that, where this is a bungee cord up underneath it, and then I take that loop and I open it up and go between the snaps right there with it, So that snap holds it in place. That keeps them together, okay? Now, getting into the hammock, you open it up, and just like before, I grip it. Make sure I'm getting the underquilt as well. Push down, I'm going to sit down. Just like that. And now I'm sitting in it. The bungees on the underquilt hold it up snug against my body to make the sleeping bag on the outside. So I want contact when I'm laying. I don't want it blood tight because it'd feel like you're doing this, but I want it to be up against me. So the easiest thing to do when you get one of these is get a friend, your grandkids, your wife, your husband, whatever, and you get into it. When you lay down where your head and all is supposed to be in the center of it, you want to pull the top strap snug so it pulls up against you. And then there's a one that goes underneath. You pull it and it gathers up like a purse, or like pulling up an old duffel bag, like that. So you want to pull that kind of snug. Down here at your feet, you want it a bit looser, where it does come up and touch you. You don't have any air gaps, but it is a little looser because as your legs shift, you don't want that V. If you pull it too tight, it's like a V. So you want to be able to maneuver around in it. Okay? Now, so I've sat down. I grab the far side, hold it out, and I lay down. Now, as you can see, it's around both sides of me. It's up against me. Here is the underquilt, and here is the underquilt, and here's the hammock. So now I'm in it. I can maneuver around. I can do whatever in here, and it's holding it up against me. And I'm here to tell you right now, it's 65 degrees right now. And in just that minute or less of laying here, my back feels warm because it's reflecting so much heat back up on me. I really don't need this underquilt, but that quick you feel the heat. It's like laying on a heating pad, at least for me. I can feel it reflecting the heat at me. So that's the way to go. Now to get out, same way. Reach up, grab, and roll up into a sitting position. Now, my ridgeline is just a little bit too low for the hat. When to put the underquilt on? Well, even in the summer, depending on how warm a sleeper you are, you may want to do it, to have it on there. But you have an option here that I really like with this system, is I can take it on and off without a big deal. Say, I ain't got to take it off. I can just unhook it. And let me show you that. Okay, suppose it was cool last night and I did need this underquilt and I've slept in it. But now here in the middle of the day, I want to take a nap. But that's too much heat. I don't have to take it all down. All I got to do is unhook one of the sides and just take the hammock out of it. Like that. So now see, there's the complete hammock. And here's my underquilt hanging on the side. I can go around and get into the hammock. Now I can put this off to either side. But I can go over and get into the hammock and not be in my underquilt. See, it'll be just a hanging to the side of it. So I'm going to be cooler. Now down here in my south where you may have days in the 60s or 70, and then at night it may be 35. This is a big advantage. Because if I want to just lay in my hammock and take a nap for a little bit, I can just simply slide it out to the side. It's still hanging, it's ready to go. It's just hanging beside me. And then if I get ready to go to bed, or if I wake up cold, all I got to do is just pull it back up underneath me and it's instantly cut back to me. And it's already adjusted. Like I said, the adjustment is the thing. You want to lay down and have somebody adjust these cords where it feels kind of, not snug, but full contact with the shoulders and everything. Why do they have it where it can adjust so much? So you can kind of fly it like a sail on a ship or something. Because if it's a little too warm, I can take that one that draws it up like a purse. I can open it up and make a little air gap around me. So I get a little more airflow underneath me. So you can regulate your warmth and what you need. Now since this is a double layer right here, it'd be easy for me to add another layer in there too, wouldn't it? So if I wanted to take one of those reusable space blankets and just slide it between the two, I could do that and add even more warmth. If I wanted to take my long shirt off and lay it flat up under there somehow, I could do that. I could hook my coat right here, just drape my coat up over the top of it. And you've seen that before, but let me take this towel and show you. So it's winter time, I'm going to get into it, and I'm going to take my big coat off. Instead of me laying it down on the ground or whatever, I'm going to take my big coat, I'll put it over the ridgeline like that, so my head's up in here underneath it. This acts like what was called in a teepee an ozone, a pocket of warm air to help keep heat around me, see? And therefore, I want it where I'm not completely enclosed, my breath would wet everything. But if it's like, you know, this and I'm breathing in and out of it, it just traps extra warm air. And it keeps my jacket kind of warm. So in the middle of the night when I got to get up, or in the morning when I get up and I grab a hold of my jacket, what I'll typically do is I'll grab it and I'll pull it down on top of me. And even pull it up under the covers with me and warm that sucker up before I get up. So I'm not getting up to cold clothes. I get up and I've got a warm jacket to put on, see? Little tips make your life so much better. Alright, we've now established the hammock and the underquilt. Now notice, I don't have the mosquito net on here. The mosquito net I've showed in videos though, slides on, and if I'm going to be using the mosquito net, this can be on it with it in the mosquito net. The mosquito net just goes over the whole top of it, okay? It would hang off outside of it. And the mosquito net does add about 10 degrees of warmth, okay? So don't discount it automatically. And OneWind makes what they call an extreme cold wind sock. And it's the size of that little green bag I held up. It's the size of this. Now what this is like another one of these, but it's like a rain jacket that would come over this and keep rain from blowing in here and getting you wet on the bottom, and it adds warmth. But that one I'm talking about, that extreme cold wind sock, is the same type of silk nylon material, but it goes over the whole thing, and it has two air holes up here at the top where your head goes. You get into it and you grab that bottom cord and you cinch it up, and then just let it go, drop down beneath you, and it cuts all the wind circulation out in there, because your body heats, heat must rise. So as I'm laying in here, air is being sucked up and around me, because I'm like smoke coming off a log. I'm hot, right? I'm warm. The ambient air is colder. So that draft is the reason you feel cold in the center of your back. So this eliminates a lot of that by putting it away from you and trapping warm air. But that wind sock going over everything, for those guys that are up in New England and Michigan and places like that, would be worthwhile. It stops that air circulation, and so it's a pocket of warm air, and it's much better in extreme cold. Okay, so that's something to look at. Now I want to now run my ridge line to put up my tarp. And here is my quick deploy ridge line that I carry for this. Now, my rule for ridge lines, some funky color so I can look at it and go, that's a ridge line. Okay? See, dead giveaway nowadays with these quick connects on it, but you know, I don't run the tarp just straight over the top, because when you get into it and this sags down, your tarp sags. I want my tarp to stay tight. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go figure out where I got the end of this at, because I ain't wearing my glasses. Like he's using the force again, guys. There we go. Now, I have my Prusik knots that has a quick connect, a Prusik knot that has a soft shackle on the end of it, another Prusik knot with a soft shackle, and then the bowline that this whole thing can pass through. Okay, so what I'm going to do is slide this on down get it set up on the tree. I want to set it up right above where my straps are at, because it's going to sag under that, right? So I'm going to make a straight line from the top of the strap to the top of the strap. I have to open this up where it's big enough to throw it around the tree. Alright, now we'll come around the tree, around here where you can see me. Alright, here's where my strap's going to be. That's elevation. So I'm going to come just right above it. Okay, I'm going to pass everything back through that bowline. If I'd left it hanked up, I could pull the whole thing, but you know, we're doing it live, guys. Alright, now, like before, you go around to the left and pull it, but this time I want that center hook going right over the top of my hammock. Okay? Now I'm going to go to the far side and hook that side. And since this one has the 3 prusik knots on it, I'm going to grab that quick connect, slide it down here. Now I'm going to take my cord and utilize that quick connect, just like this. Pull her up tight, go into the lock, just like that, and then just hook the excess underneath the cord. Now I got a ridge line. Now I run an 11-foot hammock. This is an 11-foot double wide by Onewind. Okay. For those of you that are a little bit fluffier, then the 12-foot may be better. But I'm 5'10", 200 pounds, and this thing swallows me. So the average person, the 11-footer, is going to be fine. I prefer the 12-foot tarp and the 11-foot hammock. Pull it in just a little bit. And my friend Dan Lutz, who is 6'8" and right at 400 pounds, he preferred the 12-foot hammock double wide and the 12-foot tarp. So, you know, kind of gauge that. Now I've rolled my tarp up so that whenever I flip it over the top like this, kind of center it up, I will come to the center tie out. On one side of this tarp is a shiny tape, and on the other side is not. The shiny tape goes to the bottom, okay? Now I'm going to take my top soft shackle right here, and I'm going to hook it to the tarp connector right here. Why don't you just hook the connector to the tree and the other connector to the tree? Because you're stretching your tarp. You're making your tarp take all the load. I want the ridge line to take the load and the tarp just be laying on it. I don't damage my tarp that way when I get into a heavy storm. Now, reaching underneath, I'm going to grab that other prusik, roll her on down here where she's going to be, and now I'm going to unroll my tarp. Till I get to that connector. Now I run the soft shackle through it. up snug. Now, as you saw, whenever I took it down, what I did was I unhooked one end and I simply rolled it up the ridge line, letting the sides roll up until I got to the top where there's a tube. That tells me when I take it out, it isn't all blah, 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 blah. All I got to do is just put the length over, find the center, hook it up, and just unroll it. Okay? Now, here's the buckle. Right here underneath the edge of my tarp. For rain, we talked about this. If rain's coming down the tree, it's going to hit that wide strap and want to wick. But where it gets to the connection, where it kinked, it makes it want to drip. As it comes down this strap, when it hits this bundle right here in this buckle, this will make it want to drip right here. So the water's not going to flow on down to your hammock. Coming down the line on top, the ridge line, when it hits the end of the prusik knot, it wants to drip there because it can't go around it. If it misses that and it starts to come down a little bit, again, it hits this. So if I'm in a heavy, heavy rain, I may want to put an extra piece of string just hooked around up here. But usually that 4 or 5 inches ain't enough of water to get underneath my tarp and drip. Coming down the tree, getting on my ridge line, running down right here, and this prusik knot stops it and makes it drip there. So only got like that long for it to actually get a drop and come in. Not enough to really matter. Same thing on this end. Now I am much further this way, so I'm going to slide it back a little, because right here is my buckle. And I prefer to have more over my head than my feet. So I then just slide this up. Those prusik knots on the quick detach ridge line allow me to slide forward or back and center it up without having to untie any knots. Now, here is my buckle, a foot underneath that edge. Up here on this end, here is my buckle, a 1.5 feet underneath that edge, so I don't have to worry about it so much. Now, with the OneWind, this is basically a hanging wall tent tarp. Okay, let me show you. This is 12-foot long tarp, and out here they have these separate tie-outs. Okay, these can be pulled out to make a short wall, and it will act like a wall tent. Okay, by pulling them out this way. And then all I got to do, if I set this a little bit lower, like in the dead of winter, I can actually stake the tarp to the ground, pull this out, and make a tent. The tent with a hammock inside of it. Now, it's going to be kind of low. Even for my 5-foot tent, I'd have to bend over to go in. But in extreme weather conditions, I could do it, by setting it a little bit lower down where that touched the ground. Now I'd pack pine straw or whatever, leaves all the way around all the edges and just have the slit opening to go in and out on the ends. Pretty handy little way to do it. If not, big tarp. And so if I pull it outward, you know, it's 12 foot, which is huge. So I'm going to set it up first with it on the outward edge. Now these are the doors. You can pull them out to make just a big old tarp like we're used to. Or they can close on the ends. So let me set it up closed first. Now what I have done is, I have taken bank line, I've attached it to this with simply a long loop. That way I can loosen it and take this stake off wherever I want to go. Okay, let me show you that up close. I have taken bank line and I have created about, say 8 feet of this line that's already hooked through the eye hole of the stake and just spiraled around the top. Okay, and then I've got a prusik knot right there where I can slide it up and down to extend this even more. If I've got some weird ground, I got to go way down yonder to hit ground or whatever, I can do it. And that allows me to have a very adjustable tent stake. Okay, I'm just going to wrap it to get the right length. Now up here to the connection, all it is is the bank line that's been tied in a big loop at the very end, just like this. So see, the end of that has like a 3-inch opening, a loop. Now I can detach it from here and come up here and hook to this to make the side walls for a wall tent. Or I can simply run it through down here and stake it down low. So all you got to do is take that loop, go through the connector, and then pass the whole created stake through it, like that. And work it down. Now, by simply rolling this stake, if I need a 10-inch or 6 foot, I just roll it or unroll it, and I drive it in the ground like that. That's my quick detach tent stake to keep this thing hooked to it. So let me pull it out and stake out the sides, and I'll show you that right quick. Okay, now here you can see with the doors closed. Now all it does is each of the points of this have a piece of bungee and a carabiner. And so you just pull it across and hook it to the guy line on the far side, and it makes this closed in. You see that gap right there? That allows the hammock to slide up and down through that gap right there. But at the same time, they want to close over each other to keep the wind out. And you see how if I set this up just about a foot lower, that would be on the ground. Now if I pull those sides out, that would be much like a wall tent. But this way it's just set up straight up. Now let me show you the other end that's open. Now this bungee is what I've got crossed. As you see here, it's hooked to the tarp, and then the bungee, the carabiner, I've just hooked it to the 2 side pull-outs. So I'm able to pull these doors open. And so this is what it looks like in the open configuration, like this. Now, let me set it up where you can see up in there, and I'll get into it. And coming in, hook your thumbs, turn around, sit down, put it up under your butt. Here I am. Now again, I can pull these sides out, way out, if I want a big room in here. If I don't want these enclosed on the ends, I can just pull it straight out flat and make a big tarp. There's tons of room up under here. By doing it this way, and especially when it's going to be kind of inclement weather, I'll use the side tie-outs to pull it out, and then I'll be able to put a chair or something in here. So I can actually get in here. I can take my hammock or whatever and just hook it up here to the ridge line and make room underneath where I could sit on the ground and use a little Trangia stove or something and cook and eat up underneath here. See, you wouldn't want any kind of flame or nothing because this is still nylon. Bad to get heat, get fire on. But something way down there of like a small alcohol cooker, you'd be fine. And so this is it closed up on one end and open on the other. I'm way out of the elements. I've got my ridge line up here above me for the tarp I can hook stuff to, and then I got my ridge line for my hammock I can hook to on one end. So it's like this, I would come in and out, and I could have privacy in here. I could change clothes, I could do whatever in here. By putting that barrel, once it's empty, I can put it in here and have it like a night table to the side of my hammock. So I can have my lantern, my whatever, sitting on top of it so that it's easy for me to access or whatever, and I can keep my clothes in that barrel so that they're dry and no bugs no matter what, and I just pull them out as I need. So at night, excuse me, when I get ready to go to bed, I would change into my sleeping clothes, which should be bone dry, not wore at all during the day. New underwear, new socks, new t-shirt. Have something on my head like a toboggan. Climb into the hammock. Make sure my underquilt's centered up, left or right on top of me. Have one of those towels, whichever one fits better, rolled up at the back of my neck to act like a pillow, and I'm gone. I'll be comfortable all night, and I'll be warm. Have a sleeping bag or some big quilt to put over the top of me, and I'm good. It's very comfortable. I got plenty of room in here in case of rain or something like that to keep my gear dry. That's the reason I run this rig. So, for this old Silver Wolf, this is the rig I run. Why do I do it? A, it's not that heavy. B, it's very versatile and it's very comfortable actually to me in summer, fall, or winter, depending on what I'm wearing and what kind of top cover I'm taking with me. 3, my barrel, which I got mine from my friend Dan Lutz. He procured some up there in the Ohio country and was selling them. They're all gone now. But you can look online and find these type of barrels. Now, if you'll also go look, if you don't like that lid on it, you'd prefer a screw-on lid. Look at Amazon, and you want to look at Walmart and stuff like that, and look for a 50-pound or more dog food container. And they make a hard plastic, you know, holds 50 pounds of dog food, and it's got a screw-on lid with an O-ring seal. Would do the same job. And I have that friend I told you about that he's not in great shape, and so what he does is he took one of those that's square and he made him like a little hand truck, a pier cart actually, that he could sit it on and just pull behind him to pull to his favorite camping site down by the river. It was easy in and out, and it was something that was durable, waterproof, so no matter what, your gear's going to be dry. At the same time, I can sit on the thing. I can set this with the lid on up under there to the side of my hammock and have like a table right there where I can put stuff handy to grab or whatever. I can get in here and sit beside my hammock in a chair if it's inclement weather and be able to sit there and read or whatever while it's raining and be out of the elements. All in this. And now I set it down fairly low like this. Now suppose the weather's nice and it might drizzle a little bit, we're not expecting storms. Well, I can move that tarp up. You know, I can move it 2.5 feet higher and just take the 4 corners and run them way out, and then find a stick to put up there in the opening to hold it up as an awning. And I got a huge awning. I mean, that thing will be 10 feet across and 12 feet long once you open it up like this, where it's just steep enough for a little bit of light rain to run off, no heavy storms. But man, I got room for multiple people to sit up under there with me. So if it's one of them just a drizzly day, you could do that. All for something that just rolls up and drops in the barrel. So guys, for you Silver Wolves out there, and I promise this, and I kept my word, I've showed it to you. A hammock can be the way to go to get us out here and keep us out here. If we're not backpacking, why not put it into a 1 unit? It doesn't have to be a barrel, it could be a storage tub. It's whatever you're comfortable with. It could be a kind of like a tall kitchen can, trash can, brand new. Buy one with a snap-on lid or a lock-on lid or something like that. Do the same job. It ain't got to be anything expensive. And then just put your gear, set your gear up, and then put it in. Now what am I going to do now? I'm going to reverse that order you saw me take it out. I'm going to unhook and I'm going to roll up my tarp. That's going to go on the bottom on top of the mosquito net. I may or may not need a mosquito net, so it stays in the bottom. Then I'm going to unhook the underquilt. That'll go in next. Then I'm going to unhook and take out the hammock, drop it in, and finally I'll take out the straps off the tree and drop it on top. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't have to sit there and stuff and fluff and try to force feed it, and you just push it down in the barrel. And I got room on top of that barrel to put clothing now and other gear I want to keep dry. That's the way that I run. That's the way I work my camp. And of course a battery powered lantern would probably go in there or something else. And then there'd be cook boxes and other things, coolers, etc. This isn't strictly everything, but it's the main camp. And what's important is nothing's left in there that's perishable. I wouldn't put food or something in there, because when I get home, if it isn't wet, do I have to unpack that? No. I just set that barrel out in the garage or whatever, and I know that's my camp, and it's ready to go. So next time I pull it out, it's like, dang, where did I put that underquilt? Do you remember where I put the underquilt? We had it in there, and then I took it off, and it's in there. If the weather's where I don't need the underquilt on the hammock, I just leave it in the barrel to store it. If I want to divide the blanket and underquilt to kind of be a little but not so much, snap, snap, drop it in the barrel. My gear is always together. Hope you've enjoyed this, guys. I know it's kind of long-winded, but I wanted to fully cover it and explain it to you. So if you got any questions or whatever, put them down in the comments. Love to hear from you. Till next time, guys, I'm Blackie wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.